everyone, and welcome to Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2. I'm Grestar, and I am looking forward to doing this run. This is going to be an any % new game run, and what that basically means is that we need to finish this game, start to finish, on a brand new save file using a brand new character. So we're going to get into it, and I'll explain more along the way. If you have any questions at any point, please let me know in chat, questions or comments. I'd be happy to read them and answer what I can. Yeah. And so the timer of this, it'll start once we have first movement. And so the nice thing about that with this category is that you do have time, if you would like to take it, to actually customize your character. Oh, well, we're fine here, right? See, the transition was a little bit botched, but that's fine. Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2, I'm Grestar. Let's get to gaming. So we're going to be doing this run using the Majin female. Recently with this category, with this game as a whole, really, we've changed it, and so it's no longer just the fastest to beat the game, period. But now we've actually split it up into individual races. As you can see, I'll back up really quickly. I have the time, trust me. We have 5 different playable races. We have the Frieza, Namekian, Earthling, Saiyan, and Majin. And at this point in time, even though all of the races are currently split, Majin and Saiyan are the 2 fastest. So we're going to set up our character, and there we go. That's the character customization done. We got some cutscenes to skip here. They'll tell us a little bit about how to use the map, get us going with the kind of really basic tutorial section of the game. And on first movement, we'll be starting the timer. So I will give whoever's listening a general idea of when that'll be, and then we'll get going. And there's definitely more that I want to talk about already, but I'm going to focus on this timer start, and then I'll talk as I'm actually doing the more mindless tutorial tedium, So just this last little bit, and then Supreme Kai of Time is going to welcome us to the city and task us with finding Elder Kai, because of course Elder Kai is a cheeky bugger, and he ran off. Also, thank you for the good luck, Crow. I appreciate it. So we'll just skip through this really quickly. Okay, so on moving. I'm going to say 3, 2, 1, go. 3, 2, 1, go. Timer has started, or around thereabouts it started. Off by a few seconds or not, who knows. But first we have to talk to Tufu here. It's basically just showing that, hey, you know how you can check your objectives? It's the people with the red scrolls over them. Or if you check your map, it's the red scroll icon is what you need to go and do. So we're just going and talking to them just to get that out of the way. We can't go talk to Elder Kai. He doesn't actually appear on the map until we go and talk to all 3 of these people here. But like I said, I do want to talk a little bit more about the character customization, the character creation, and why I made the decisions that I did. Because like I said, at this point, the leaderboard is split into the individual races. Again, the 5 of them. But Majin is still my favorite. It currently has the fastest time to beat the game. But like I said too, Saiyan is at this point very close. And the reason that the races differ is, first, they have different kinds of combos associated with them. But another thing about this game is that with New Game in particular, there are a couple points throughout the game where they make you do, little tasks. They make you satisfy little requirements. One of them being you need 15 TP medals. And that one is not really racial specific, but what is specific is that you also need your race-specific transformation. So if you're playing as a Saiyan character, for instance, you would need to unlock Super Saiyan, We're playing as a Majin, and so we're instead going to be unlocking our purified form, which basically will transform us into Kid Buu, if you're familiar with the series. But here we have our first mission, so you get a taste of what the vast majority of this game is going to be, and that's going to be me punching and kicking a lot of people, occasionally hitting them with Ki Blast, that sort of thing. There we go. Depleted his health, we get to move on. Another good thing about the Majin, like I said, each race, and the different sexes between the races too, if applicable, like Namekian and Frieza, they don't have a sex distinction. But they also come with different combos, the male and female of Saiyans, Earthlings, and Majin. One of the really nice things about the Majin female in particular is that she has a really good infinite combo. And though it's called infinite, it is a little bit of a misnomer. It's infinite if the appropriate conditions are met. There we go. I have to pick our hero at the start of every new game. Her combo is, one, really easy, really simple to do, but it's also among the more powerful of the infinite combos capable, like that these characters are capable of in this game. Because it uses exclusively, pretty much, her heavy attack. Really quickly, we need to just equip our vehicle here. This one. And I got to do some more little tasks. But as you'll see as I'm playing this game a little bit more when I go back to the fights, I do basically, if I can help it, the same thing over and over again. Which is just me spamming the heavy attack until I slam them down into the ground. I shoot off a single ki blast to kind of stun them for a moment. Just keeps them put for me. Now we're going to be fighting Yamcha. And then I swoop in and I just keep it going. And there's some slight variations to that depending on how far away the enemy is away from you. But generally speaking, it's very straightforward. So here we can see it a little bit more. We're going to want 2 full combos of that on him, and then finish him off with Meteor Crash. There we go. So here are 2 reasons now why we chose to fight Yamcha, because, as you may or may not know if you're familiar with this game, is that Yamcha is a completely optional fight, like this particular one. So one reason is because fighting him gives us a TP medal, as we're seeing right there. Well, as you might have seen a flash of at least. And like I said earlier, we need 15 TP medals at one point in the game in order to just continue with the main story. And so we can get those from basically any mission that is not a required story mission. And so why him? First, it's a pretty easy fight. He's one of the most, like early on combatants that you can find. And so he really isn't that difficult. But another reason is that when you talk to him, it unlocks the possibility for him to have a special training session. And that can give you 10 TP medals at once, as long as RNG works out in your favor. And so you can imagine if we need 15, why getting 10 at once would be a really good thing. So I've gone around a little bit, just doing some more requirements. We had to go talk to Elder Kai. But now what I want to do is I want to go and take off my scouter. Not put the wig on. I forgot to turn some DLC off, so I have some things a little bit different as far as menuing is concerned. But for the most part, it's fine. We sold some things. Now we're going to talk to Tosok. He is one of our best friends in this run, because he actually gives us the capability to buy levels. We need Zenny, which is this game's basic form of currency, but he'll just let us pay Zenny to purchase levels, and it's incredible. And what would we do without him? This run was a lot harder before we introduced that strategy, because we would ordinarily be going through the game very under-leveled, but here we kind of have the opposite. Now that we have Tosok as part of this run, we go through most of the game over-leveled, so it's quite nice. Now, the next requirement from Supreme Kai of Time, before we can actually continue with story missions, is we have to do this tutorial parallel quest. Parallel quests are basically just side missions in this game, and they're what you would be spending the majority of your time on if you were to pick this game up and play it casually. And so this is just a way where, unfortunately, there's no way around doing it to continue playing the story. But just to show you what a parallel quest can be like, ways like this portal, how you can move from one location in a parallel quest to another location, the kinds of enemies that you might come across, that sort of thing. So this particular parallel quest, unlike some others that you might do, it's all set. So there's really no... Okay, there are a couple of random things in this. But for instance, you saw me, I briefly pulled up my scouter there, even though I just sold it. And I located 2 items, picked them up. Those 2 items are always in the same spot, as is Krillin here. Krillin's not having such a good day. So we lock onto him, and we're just going to chill here until his health bar has finished. There we go, we brought him back up. And that's something that you can do if you're playing this game, doing like a multiplayer parallel quest session or expert missions. If your teammates get knocked out, you can go to them, focus on them, and it brings them back up. The issue, of course, is if you have enemies around, they can knock you about, and that can make it a little bit difficult. But now, Krillin's senses have awakened, and we get to fight another foe here in the parallel quest. Seriously, it's nostalgic, isn't it? I don't have as much nostalgia myself because I was actually really late to the Dragon Ball train, you know. But since I've started watching it and, you know, played more of the games, it definitely has become something that I'm fond of at this point. So we finished off those two, and now Odakai is going to teach us about using the scouter to locate enemies on the map. But the enemy always spawns in the same spot, so we can just fly over here instead. We're gonna see him appear. Pop, there he is. We'll do one of these and then finish him off with Meteor Crash. Oh, I was gonna say as long as the terrain doesn't mess us up, but that was fine. Quick recovery. Then we fly over to this island, which at the moment is completely empty, but suddenly 3 people are going to pop into existence. There they are. This is going to show you how, basically, in some parallel quests, we're going to run into other time patrollers. Now, a time patroller is the kind of character that I'm playing as. It's basically, you know, just a superpowered Dragon Ball person who has the responsibility of cleaning up things that are wrong with time. Whether just something, there's like a glitch in the Matrix sort of thing, or if a villain, of course, decided to be all villainy and mess with some canonical event that we're, you know, all familiar with. So when these time patrollers do pop up in parallel quests, they're controlled by NPCs. I mean, the CPO, I should say. But presumably, these are all actual designs that people have made, which I think is kind of cool. I do have my doubts still, because I tend to see, like, the same ones pop up over and over again in these missions. But that's at least the idea. And here we are. We have our finish. But wait, there's more. Because there always is, right? This is showing how in parallel quests there is like a finish, and then there's the like ultimate clear, where there's some condition that you need to meet within the parallel quest in order to get that ultimate finish. And this time it's beating these two. It would be great if we didn't actually have to get the ultimate clear here, because it would just, you know, save us a whole like little fight here. But unfortunately, there's no way around it. The parallel quest even says that, like, the lose condition is if you know, get knocked out. And I've tried, and you can't get knocked out. When you end up with a sliver of health, you become invincible in this tutorial parallel quest, so there's nothing you can do. Alright. That little bit there with Yamcha and Tien talking was actually not something that happens every time. Once Elder Kai says, like, you know, basically, why don't you go join the fight? There's a chance for the fight to end as long as you've actually beaten Yamcha and Tien. But there's also a chance for Yamcha and Tien to just keep bringing up different dialogue. So it's obviously a bit obnoxious when that happens because that takes more time. But we got a short bit of dialogue at least that time, so we're good. Here now, for beating that parallel quest, we got some goodies. So we're going to sell these Hercule badges for some more Zenny. And now we're going to talk to our best friend again. Hello, Tosak. One of our best friends, I should say, because we have a couple in this run. They obviously needed to force an example of the extra part of the parallel quest. Exactly. They did what they felt they had to do. So in the past, we actually would have had to do more at this point in the run. Just a little bit more, but there would have been another couple NPCs that we would have to go and talk to. Just because if we didn't, they would eventually just pull us out of the time nest where we take on the main story missions, just to tell us something about the game, you know, some new mechanic that was introduced, etc. But with more and more patches, they gradually phased those ones out. And in exchange, they added new cutscenes. So we just have to talk to her to say, we talked to Elder Kai, we did the tutorial parallel quest, now we're good, we can go and do story missions. But before I do, I am going to talk to Multiplayer Modes Man. Because for some reason, he will still pull you out. If I didn't talk to him there, once we went up into the time nest, he would just immediately pull us back down the stairs. So rather than have to go up the stairs twice, we're going to hopefully save some time by doing this. But this is one of the cutscenes I talked about. It really doesn't have anything to do with the main story. It's just kind of advertising DLCs that they've released. So, nothing that you can do. I know that technically we could roll back our versions of this game in Steam, and potentially on console too. I'm not familiar with how it all works. But currently, how the board works is you just play whatever the current version is. Yeah, so if I hadn't talked to Multiplayer Modes Man after I skipped those cutscenes, I would have been all the way back down there. But here we actually just get to continue forward. So, aside from Raditz, where we fought him briefly, now we're going into the first, so I suppose that would be the second, story mission of the game. So yay, we're back on track. Most of the jumping around in this game, going about like that little hub area that we were just in, takes place within the first like 30 minutes. So this fight is one of the interesting fights in this game, because it actually has a dialogue skip that's possible. And I got it. Because now we have that presence is so strong yet familiar. Normally what would happen is Gohan would be scared and he would mention those eyes, they're bright red, and we would have this whole other strand of dialogue. But because we got Nappa down to as far as we could before Yamcha finished that one line about who cares who it is, it jumped us ahead to another bit of dialogue that basically triggers the mission to end. So we did have to worry about Nappa's health. We had to get him down really quickly, and that is kind of difficult at this point in the game because we did level up, but we're still not super strong. You see, we had it, they're bright red. Gohan was about to say something more, but instead, it just cut that dialogue off. It acknowledged that we did it. We have a similar thing with Goku Black here. Or not Goku Black, excuse me. With Turtle, that's right. They look the same, alright? They all look the same, but we have the same thing with him. We have to hurry up and get him down before Elder Kai finishes this line, and we got him. This guy looks, yeah. Ordinarily, this would come at the end, but instead, now we're going to have Turles at the end say, I watched you fight, and then he clearly has more that he wants to say, but he's not gonna. The game is going to skip us ahead. So thankfully, we've gotten the two beginning dialogue skips in this game. There are, I believe, 2 more at, other points in this run. So hopefully we'll be able to get those as well. One of them should be really easy, but I have still missed it. It's perfectly possible. But see, he had more to say, and we interrupted him. We just rode off. And now we get to Nappa and Vegeta. So we're good on the dialogue skips for now. But that's one of the things that sets some of the fights off a little bit apart from the others. Normally what happens is that we just need to reach a certain point of, like, we fight the enemy, right? And we get them down to a certain point of health, and then they're invincible. And then we need to wait until a certain point of dialogue for them not to be invincible. So, unfortunately, that kind of sets a lot of the fights, like, you can only do them so quickly. But there we go. Got him down. And now Nappa and Vegeta are almost done. We have a little bit left. They're done as we saw them there, but unfortunately, when there's a moon, or something that might vaguely resemble a moon, sometimes Saiyans become a little bit bigger. So now we have to deal with the Great Apes. And in this one, we want to just completely avoid Vegeta. So I fly over here just to get Nappa's attention on me a little bit better. Oh, when he falls, it's the worst thing ever, because he's invincible, but you can see his purple bar. It's still going up. And the purple bar is his invincibility. So if that had gone all the way up, I would need to lower the purple bar all the way down again before I could actually deal damage to him. So we never want them to fall, and we never... Sorry for the light. He got right up in my face as I'm throwing my bomb key. We never want the enemy to fall, and we never want our allies to grab their tails, because that does very little damage, and it makes them invincible for the duration. But there we go. Great Ape's done. That's technically the only time that we're going to be seeing Great Apes in this run. There will be one other, but it won't be quite the same. So another thing about the races that set them apart, like Majin, Saiyan, Earthling, that kind of thing, right? Is that they have different Ki Blast types. As you saw there, I was using Bomb Ki Blasts, which are the default type for the Majin race. And they're just incredibly powerful, especially against living things, especially Great Apes. And so that's great. We want the default. Awesome. But for other races, we want to take advantage of the Bomb Ki Blast as well, just because, again, the Great Apes seem to hate it for some reason. And so one of the nice things about this game is there are items called Super Souls. And they all have their own, like, inherent abilities. I mean, some of them, the inherent abilities are just nothing. But most of them, I would say, have inherent abilities. But they also change your Ki Blast type, which can be really useful if you're playing a different race. But we're playing Majin, so it didn't matter. Now we're going to talk to one of our other best friends. This is Jija. Hello, Jija. So Jija hates bitter people. And so what we want to do here... Wrong one. What we want to do here is use the Anguish emote. He freaks out. And in exchange for us never doing that again, and, you know, probably some sort of restraining order sort of thing, he gives us an outfit, which I think is quite lovely of him. So we're going to go over to the item shop, show our appreciation for that by immediately selling the items. No more clothing. And instead we are going to buy this Super Soul Get Lost Before I Send You Flying. Because while Bomb Ki Blasts were great, we don't need them at this point. Now we want what another thing that the Super Soul provides, which is a Limit Burst. The particular Limit Burst that we're after is one that gives us a boost in attack. It lasts, I want to say, around 15 seconds. Maybe closer to like 12 seconds of usable Limit Burst time. But yes. Now we're just using the leftover money that we got from selling those clothes. It would help if I actually hit A to confirm. To purchase as many levels as we can from Tosok. Imagine playing this game for fun and not picking Saiyan. Imagine that. There's more chat. Despite the fact that Xenoverse 2 does share a bit of mission content with Xenoverse 1, you do appreciate some of the differences made. Oh, for sure, yeah. I'm glad that they didn't just completely duplicate Xenoverse 1 to make Xenoverse 2. It wasn't just like engine changes or anything like that. They did actually change up some story missions, which is fun. You know, it's a bit of a chance for them to do more fan fiction that's official. Okay, so we have all of those levels, and now what Supreme Kai of Time tasked us to do was actually go to each of these time rifts and talk to a quintuplet that's there, just to give us more information. The time rifts are basically for two different reasons. One reason is because they can unlock more endgame missions, so those missions won't be included in this category. Another thing, though, is that each of these time rifts, you can see that they're based upon the different races. So we just had Frieza's spaceship, now we have Majin Buu's house. So these places are also used for our race-specific transformation. So you don't need to do the race to do all of the stuff that's in each, you know, specific instance. But to do, like, to get the most out of it, you would need, like, I would need to be a Majin here if I wanted to get the most out of, you know, the Majin Buu special thing. Hello, welcome, raiding party. Hope you're enjoying License-a-thon, or hope you will enjoy it. Or License-a-thon, I believe is how people are pronouncing it. So I went in there and I talked to Majin Buu, and it might have seemed kind of pointless, and it will seem pointless for a little bit. But there is a point to it, I promise you. And I will tell you what the point is, because I might as well. Fan of Supreme Kai of Time, love her so much. Yeah, she's great. So the reason I went in and spoke to Majin Buu is his little side quest thing is we need to feed Majin Buu enough that he basically has babies, because Majin Buu wants a family after reading some spicy magazines. So if we feed him enough, he'll spawn like little Majin Buu-lings. And that's exactly what he wants. But by talking to him, it initiates that quest, and it pops in other NPCs on the map that will actually give us food. So now I'm going to do something. We're going to equip that Super Soul we bought, and we're going to boost our attributes. Starting with basic attack, I want this to be around 80. Because basic attack is what we're mostly going to be doing. But then I also want my strike supers up, because that's Meteor Crash and a skill that we're going to be using later on. But now we get to talk to the Great Saiyaman. And they're basically just like, hey, you want to join us? We're pretty cool. We have costumes and such. So, of course, we say yes. You know, we're raring to go. And now we just have to beat Great Saiyaman and Great Saiyaman 2. Thank you for the good luck. I appreciate it. So here we're going to activate our Limit Burst. So you can see we got attack up and some auto key recovery. And so while we have it active, and you can see on our like icon on the top left that we have it active because we're all like red and glowy, we want to take advantage of that. That's when we really want to dish out the pain. Because that's when we have our attack boost active. Now, Humpty Dumpty, Majin is currently the fastest to do the new game category specifically. But now that all of the races, like in the category, it's split by race, so you don't have to play as Majin anymore. So if anyone wanted to run this game, but they didn't want to play as Majin, for whatever reason, despite how awesome they are, you don't have to. But there. We did that, and why did we fight him? 2 reasons. 1, fighting him gave us another TP medal, and as I said, we need 15 total. But 2, we also got another outfit. And we're going to be doing the same thing here. We're going to talk to the quintuplet that's here, like Supreme Kai of Time requested of us. And this is the last quintuplet we need to talk to. But then we're going to pop off to the left here, talk to Vegeta, because he's grumpy, and he needs someone to exercise with. So we're going to do a little bit of exercising with him, just one time, enough that he'll give us a TP medal, and of course, some clothes. And then, as we do with everyone who gives us clothing, like we're going to take that clothing promptly to the shops and get rid of it. The issue with fighting Vegeta on this map is right there. He uses oh bloody what's it called? Basically, you use a little bit of ki and or stamina, an evasive skill that just got him out of my combo. So I just had to reconnect. It's a minor thing, but he can do that like 3 times in the fight. So just getting it once, you know, that was good. Okay. So back over here. We're going to go, like I said, sell the clothing, but this time we're not going to be using it to buy levels. Instead, we're going to be using it to buy water. Why water? Because that counts as food in this game, and we need the food to feed Majin Buu. So here, we're just going to buy as many as we can. Thank you, DBZ fan. I appreciate the good luck. So there we go. We have that. And unfortunately, you can only buy up to a stack of 99, and we need more than that. So now we're going to talk to this NPC that spawned, and he gave us 2 chocolate, and that should be just enough. We need to be given at least 2 food of at least a 2-star quality. It's kind of iffy. It's a green one. But now that we have all of that water and the 2 chocolate, this should be enough, fingers crossed, for Majin Buu to spawn all the Boolings that he needs. And then once he's satisfied, he'll teach us our race-specific transformation. So we're just going to fill him with water. We can see here. So 34 is 1 full bar. But like I said, unfortunately, you can't have more than a stack of 99 of a single item. And that's why we needed to unlock an NPC by talking to Majin Buu initially upon coming to this rift, who will give us something other than water. But first, we have 1 more stack of it, because we have 31 water left after that. So it wouldn't have been quite enough. So there's that one. Now we just need him to get 1 more Majin Booling. So there's that, and Moment of Truth is 2 enough. It is indeed just enough. That's good. I was fairly confident, but you never know. Things happen. So now he has a question mark. Wah! Something new for us. And so this is us unlocking our race-specific transformation. When I routed each of the 5 races, I tried to get their transformation out out of the way as early as possible for, again, 2 main reasons. One reason is because, you know, some of the races have really good transformations, and it can be incredibly useful. I hate this move of his, turning you into candy. It just wastes time. So some transformations are just powerful, and of course, that can be great to help you beat, you know, fights faster. But another reason is that, you know, you have to be out there in the main hub, because Supreme Kai of Time, you know, has the... I'm candy again! has the task for you to go and visit all of the quintuplets. But now we have gotten our purification. We do actually have to win this fight in order to officially be able to transform. Like, even though we're transformed here, we wouldn't be able to, like, have that skill with us outside of this battle unless we win. But now it's Majin Buu and 3 Majin... Not quite Majin Boolings, but they're small Majin Buu. So I'm hoping that I can get a little bit more damage out before... Okay, so we're able to beat 2 of them before our limit burst ran out, which is good. We just have this last Majin Buu small, and then we have, of course, the big one. So as you might have noticed, playing with Purification, the Purification transformation, it actually completely changes not only your base combo, but also all of the supers and the ultimate skills that you have. So a lot of people don't like the Purification transformation, and frankly, I can't blame them. I think it's a boon within the speedrun, but within casual play, it is a bit of a bummer that the transformation completely changes any of the customization that you put into your character, you know? But we did it. We got our transformation. We're good to leave. So we'll make use of both untransformed Majin Buu female and the transformed Majin Buu female throughout the rest of this run. It goes back and forth. It kind of just depends on how quickly you could beat this or that otherwise, you know? So now from here, going to Capsule Corporation. We need to drop down here where she's waiting for us. Hey, we talked to the quintuplets. She says thank you, gives you an energy capsule, and you gotta move on. So all that you had to do in order to continue with the story missions was talk to the 5 quintuplets. Everything else I did was just trying to set me up ahead of time as efficiently as possible to get all 15 of the TP medals that I needed and the transformation, just while I was already out there so I didn't have to waste time going in and out of the time nest again and again. So at this point, we have 5 TP medals. We got 1 for the tutorial parallel quest, we got 1 for beating Yamcha early on, 1 for the transformation fight itself, 1 for fighting Vegeta, where we got the clothing, and then 1 for fighting Great Saiyaman, so that's 5. So now we need Yamcha to have his special training class, and he can have that at any point in the game, or never at this point. It is not a guarantee that Yamcha will host his special training. So we're going to cross our fingers that it will happen, and that it will only happen once, and that when it does happen, he'll behave in such a way, the RNG will ultimately, that we'll be able to get all 10, because it's very possible that you'll only get 8 or even 6. So unfortunately, nothing you can do there. Again, over the course of my time running this game, I've run this game on and off since 2018. As they've released more content, they've added cutscenes, they've removed cutscenes, they've added NPCs that will pull you out of the time nest, you know, that you need to talk to ahead of time. They've removed that. Not the NPCs themselves, but like their ability to pull you out of the time nest. And sometimes, some of the changes I've been able to work with in such a way where it's like I can kind of manipulate when those cutscenes are going to happen, or I can even trigger them in advance to make them happen when it's more convenient for me. But some of them are still just a little bit stubborn, and you just have to roll with it.
What gives, Kale? Huh?
Okay, so now we're back once again to the story missions, and there were only going to be just a couple more interruptions. For the most part, at this point, we are just going to go through the story missions until the end of the game. But later on, the game will decide that we still need a couple more tutorials on some things. So, we'll get to that point when we get to that point. For now, we get to fight Zarbon and Dodoria. Immediately, just knock away Dodoria. He doesn't matter. We just need to focus on Zarbon. Fighting Dodoria does actually nothing. I mean, like, you can weaken him, so if you don't like him, like, feel free. But there's no point to it. The issue, of course, though, is that he starts targeting you, like, just as far as the mission's concerned, he's targeting you from the start, is what I'm trying to say. And so he's already aggroed onto you. But if you knock him away and then you start fighting Zarbon, sometimes he loses interest. Sometimes he will just charge at you and, like, knock you away, which can be really annoying. But he was pretty nice that time. He did loom around me a little bit, which had me a bit nervous, but it worked out. Now we're going to be fighting Lord Slug. And this one, it's entirely dialogue dependent. There's really nothing that I can do to make this any faster. I could, of course, make this fight slower, but basically everyone who runs this game is going to have the exact same time on this fight. Because we've gotten Lord Slug down as low as we can at this point. And so now we just need to wait for enough of the dialogue to pass so that it moves on. Because sometimes, I know I started talking about this. I don't think I fully elaborated, fully finished. Sometimes you can fight something, like you can fight an enemy fast enough, get them down to a certain point of health fast enough, that it will trigger like an ending bit of dialogue. And once that dialogue ends, you know, the game moves on, you move on to the next mission. Sometimes you need to wait for a point in the dialogue to come, and then it'll just automatically transition to the next mission. And sometimes you need to wait for a point of dialogue to come for the enemy to no longer be invincible, and then you actually have to finish them off. So if you're learning to run this game, you kind of just have to learn, you know, which mission is what, or like how it behaves. But it's not too bad all in all. So you can see at the beginning we popped our Limit Burst just to give us that attack up. We did a couple combos with, you know, our Infinite Majin combo because it's awesome. And then finished off with Meteor Crash. It's really easy. And really quite consistent. The nice part about these early battles is that you actually can come up with consistent strategies for each individual fight. Where it's like, okay, I need to do 2 full combos and then Meteor Crash or something to that effect, you know? And like technically you could still do that kind of math with later enemies. But as the game goes on, the AI gets, you know, more and more tricky. And so you can't rely on that sort of thing nearly as well. So, now we're continuing on forward. This is one of those times, like going into this section of the game, where I debate whether I want to take the time to actually equip the transformation, because even though we did unlock our transformation, we need to have equipped it if we wanted to actually use it in a fight. And so, what I used to do when the game behaved differently, because I had a different number of cutscenes that would pull you back into the hub, is before this, I would actually go down, I would buy an ultimate skill, I would equip the transformation, all would be groovy. But with how they've changed things and it no longer takes you to the hub at that point, I'd admittedly go back and forth about the actual effectiveness of equipping all that at this point. Because I don't think that you need it. You're perfectly strong without your transformation. And a lot of the fights in this like subset of missions, they're very dialogue dependent. And so again, like at that point, you can only do so much to actually speed up, you know, your play. So we're just going to, as you can see, Birder, he's already invincible. Like if I kept wailing on him, nothing would happen. And I guess to prove it, I'll keep wailing on him. But you can see his health isn't moving at all. We need to wait. You know, Goku showed up, and Elder Kai is going to be cheeky, talk about Goku, you know, showing up, taking all the fun. And it's at that point that Birder and Jace, because they're both invulnerable at this point of health, they'll become vulnerable again. Then we'll have to finish them off. Something that is worth pointing out is that when the enemy is invincible, and you need to wait for dialogue before they're, you know, vulnerable again, you are not invincible. So if I just stood there, they would be, you know, wailing on me. I would actually be taking damage. But see, Elder Kai has his line. So I equip Limit Burst. And then we're going to just connect with him real quick. And down he goes. He doesn't actually die. You can see he has a sliver of health, but we've got him down as far as we can. Now we just need to beat them as quickly as possible, so I'm going to Limit Burst right away. And since I have so much ki already, just use that, knock him out. And now I'm good to just wait. Another thing that I think is worth talking about with this game is that there are different kind of like memory states that the character can take. And that sounds more complicated than it is. It's not like Ocarina of Time or anything. It's just either when a scene transitions, and you're like suddenly fighting new baddies or whatever, right? There's a cutscene in between is the point. Some of them, it starts you off with no ki and full health, and some of them has you at the same amount of health and the same amount of ki as before the transition, right? And so, again, if you're learning to do this run, you just want to identify which ones are which, so that you know, like, should I be saving some ki for later? You know, would it benefit me more to have ki the next time the fight starts, or should I just go ham on this guy right now? That kind of thing. But here, we've already beaten Ginyu, Trunks as much as we can. Now we've beaten Jace as much as we can. So here we just get to wait once more for the dialogue to finish, for the scene to transition. This will be one of those transitions where we have just as much ki, just as much or little health as we did before. So we can just wait. We can use our Scouter to see their levels, to see their skills if we want. Just a fun little crammer. And now the scene transitions. And now, Jace is vulnerable, but Ginyu still is not. So we can finish him off. And then, as you can see... Ah, hold on, let me actually hit him. He's still not taking any damage, so we can just chill. We can wait. So, while we're waiting, I want people in the chat to tell me, how has their Lysensathon been? How are y'all doing at this point in time? Ow! Ow! Okay, so now we can limit burst. Because now with this dialogue, he's vulnerable again. There he goes. So now we need to defeat both of these people. Turles and Captain Ginyu, this time in Goku's body. So Captain Ginyu is now down. And of course, while I have my limit burst still active, I'm going to do as much as I can to Turles as well. And Turles is now down. And so, the Ginyu saga, if you will, is over. And see, we didn't need transformation for that. There are a couple times where, like, I had the time with all the dialogue that I could have put it on. One of the nice things about Purification, again, the Kid Buu-looking transformation that Majin has, is, one of its abilities is self-heal. And so I could have done that if I wanted to. But at this point, now I'm going to customize. I'm going to go into my skills. Going to go down to my my Awoken. Put Purification on. Boost my attributes. We're just going to put these last ones into supers really quickly. Just since we were already on like the customization menu, we might as well. And now if we want to, in these upcoming fights, we can go our purified form. And we will want to at some points. Because now that the Ginyu saga is over, it is time for the Frieza saga to begin. And the end, the last fight of the Frieza saga, is one of the biggest like difficulty spikes that this game has to offer, as far as the main story is concerned. So now that we've gotten Frieza down to this point, he's invincible. And yeah, it's a very common theme that's going to happen in a lot of fights. He's invincible, so we just have to wait for the dialogue. We don't have to fight him any more than this. Even after the dialogue ends, it will just transition for us. So we just wanted to get him down as quickly as possible to trigger the ending dialogue, you know? And it takes some time, but we're good. The goal of this mission is actually to not let Nail be KO'd. So technically, if Nail were to be KO'd, we would lose and have to redo this fight. But I have enough faith that I'm just going to let him be tossed around a little bit. Where is he? There they are. I believe in Nail. I think he can hold his own. Really just because by the time you get Frieza down and like this end dialogue begins, I have faith. It could always happen, but I have faith that he will not be defeated before the scene transitions. Oh, I could show you real quick too. See, this is my transformation, and I can also do maximum charge in this form. I can do quick sleep to regain my health. That kind of thing. You got to see a little bit of it. Yeah, we don't use those too often. Because usually when I'm in that form, I'm wanting to fight, you know? Rather than like spend time healing or, you know, recharging my ki. But it can come in clutch sometimes. So even though I did say that this was the Frieza saga of the game, and technically it is, we first have this little intermission with more Turles and Slug. And though I said the last fight of this saga is, you know, one of the biggest difficulty spikes in the, you know, main story of this game, this I think is the first difficulty spike of this, the story in the game. I know when I was playing this game casually, when, you know, a couple of my friends were playing this game casually, they had the same kind of experience where this fight can be really tough. Turles and Slug here, like, they're not slackers, you know? They can team up on you if they're particularly nasty. And, as you'll see here really soon, Lord Slug is now invincible. But of course, while he's invincible, we are not. So I need to get both him and Turles down as much as I can, because while they are invincible right now, when the dialogue ends, we will actually have to finish them off. So we want to get them down, you know, just as far as we can, which we have now done. So at this point, I can do whatever I want. I can run off and hide and hope that no one chases me. I can just let them, you know, beat up poor Gohan, which I like to do. Turles is having fun chasing me right now, which is kind of cute. Until he does that. But even though you can see Gohan's health on the left side of the screen, he will not actually be KO'd. He's invincible. As much as he might complain, as much as he might not like being attacked by bigger, stronger people, he won't actually die, so it's fine. Sometimes, though, they will insist upon fighting you anyway. And so, yeah, if you're playing this casually, and, you know, you've gotten them down to the point where they won't go down any further, I mean, if you're playing casually for the first time, you probably are not going to get them down to this health this quickly. But just having to wait for the dialogue to run out before you can actually finish them off, and you just have to avoid, like, being KO'd yourself, it can be tricky. We are nearing the end, though, of the dialogue, so at this point, I kind of want to shepherd them together a little bit if possible. Because, like I said, I do have to actually take them both out. So if I can get Turles over here, please. What are you doing, Turles? So after Dark Energy, they're vulnerable again. So there's Turles, and then Slug. There we go. Not quite finished with them. And as you might notice, I still have the same amount of health and the same amount of ki that I had last time. And so if I were to get knocked out at this point, I would have to do all of that, like, previous, you know, like, waiting for the dialogue section again. Which is just another reason that this fight can be brutal for newcomers. It's not really that bad, but it definitely is. You know, there's a learning curve to it for sure. The scene is going to transition once more, so it's a good thing that I actually have the key that I do. Skip this cutscene, activate our limit burst once more. Oh, okay, and I narrowly avoided being caught in Slug's ultimate, so that was good. And he's down. Now we're done with Turles and Slug for the remainder of the game. Don't have to worry about them anymore. And that also means that we're going back to the actual Frieza fights within the Frieza saga. And this is, I think, the strangest fight in this game. And I will show you why I think it's the strangest as soon as it loads. So this is Fear as many forms, Emperor Frieza. And what we want to do here is nothing. And not only do we not want to do anything, we want Frieza to go ham on Vegeta. As soon as Vegeta gets KO'd, we move on to the next fight. I technically could hurt Frieza in this, and I could certainly knock him around. But after losing just a sliver of health, Frieza becomes invulnerable in this fight. And there's not really anything that you can do to, like, tell him to fight Vegeta. Some people, like some runners, if he's not fighting Vegeta, they'll, like, swoop in and knock Frieza away in hopes that that will, like, trigger him to, you know, target someone new. But it's not consistent, and knocking him away definitely takes time, you know, for him to recover. And so if you're doing that multiple times, like, overall, you're just going to be losing a bunch. But see, he's hit him one more time! Frieza! Thank you. He's KO'd, so now the scene will transition. And now we actually do want to hurt him again. So there we go. So now we just have a series of, we're going to punch Frieza until things transition. So now he's invulnerable. Goku's going to go through some dialogue. It will transition once it's done, once it's ready, you know. Should just knock him around a little bit because we can. I'm a Saiyan. And, oh, he dodged it! If you connect that meteor crash, that's all you need. But he dodged it, so we had to do 2. But there we go. We have 2 more fights left within this saga. So first we get to see the we skip cutscenes, obviously. We get to see the first time the Goku goes Super Saiyan because he's very angry. I mean, like, reasonably so. Krillin is awesome. But we have to get Frieza down. Just about all the way. Just step away when he does that. Not really anything more that you can do. Goku, if you could not hit him away from me, that would be amazing. There we go. And now we're moving into the final fight, which kind of has 2 sections, but the first section is, like, very fast, so hardly counts. But during that fight, we're actually going to want to use our purification again, so if you really like seeing Kid Buu flail about, here's your opportunity. Because Cooler has shown up to help. So we're going to activate Limit Burst to make us a little bit stronger, but also in this case to activate the Ki Auto Recovery, because already the scene is going to transition. And now this is the final fight of the Frieza saga in particular. Yeah. Okay. So I want to do just a little bit of fighting as Majin Female first. I want to go Purified form. Now a Limit Burst, kind of just to knock him away from me, because they're being a bit of a... Oh, yeah, they're bullying me. I'd really like, while I have Limit Burst active, to hit them a lot. But they are not wanting me to do that. If I could do... No, okay. So we unfortunately did not get to do a whole lot with our Limit Burst active. I just kept getting hit at the worst of times. Or enemies would, like, fly away to somewhere else. Uh-oh. So he used an ultimate. We didn't quite stop him, but we did avoid getting hit by it at least. Now we have to finish Cooler off. So if I can, what I want to do, like every time I can, is just chain this Pearl Flash ability. It's very powerful, and it's really fast too. But most of the time, enemies will be able to recover, and, you know, whether it's a matter of, like, kind of iframes as they're rolling in the air out of the way, or they just miss because they moved at that point. You often can't chain Pearl Flashes, but when you can, it's really convenient. Most of the time in this game, as I think I was starting to say, and then didn't, NPC allies are not great. There are times they can help you set up combos like the Pearl Flash chaining, but it's out of your control because, of course, they're NPC allies. And most of the time, instead, they just knock the enemy away from you. Now that we've done the Frieza saga, we actually have the ability to fly. But for a lot of this, it's still faster to just pop into the vehicle. So I'm going to go down to the skill shop here, and we're going to purchase another ultimate attack. We want Super Ki Explosion here. And that's the only reason that we left. I mean, it kicked us out of the Time Nest, and that's why I take this opportunity to go and get that. But now we can pop back inside. As a Majin, you should just be able to turn all the villains into candy and win easy. I know, I wish. While I don't mind the skills that they gave the transformation, like the Purification transformation, I do wish that it were customizable still, to some extent. No, that one. Because it would have been great, yeah, if we could have, like, turn candy. I mean, it's a little bit iffy, because you can't hurt them when you turn them into candy, at least in this game, obviously. You know, in canon it's different, but in this game it doesn't hurt them. But it could be really convenient for times where you just need to focus on one enemy, but others keep popping out of nowhere and, like, knocking you away. That's where it would be great. Thank you for the good lucks, I appreciate it. Uh-oh. Of course he was using his ultimate right then. So we got him down to that threshold. While Cell's flying down, we're going to activate this again. We need to get him down to a certain amount of health, but it is one of those cases again where... Will you cut that out? Where he will become invincible really quickly. The dialogue, thankfully, is not that long this time, but you see he's invincible right there. No, I was out of stamina. And he is so happy with his evasives right now. Okay, but one last thing for this form of Cell. One of the issues with using super attacks when you have NPC allies is that you using a super attack or an ultimate attack kind of encourages them to do the same. And you might think, why is that a bad thing? Here's why. Because sometimes when I use a super attack or an ultimate, I have a specific plan in mind for how I want to execute things. And when they use a super, it will very often knock them out of whatever I was doing. So that's another reason that NPC allies usually aren't good, and some of them seem to be a lot worse than others with how they behave. I mean, in relation to you or in relation to the enemy. It might just be due to their like base movesets. It's kind of hard to say. But yeah, I tend to complain more often than I praise the fact that I have, or complain about rather than praise my NPC allies. There we go. So here, we want to get him down as quickly as we can, which I know sounds obvious, right? But as soon as we get him down to like a sliver of health, we're going to be able to jump to the final dialogue. Transition. Right there, the give up. So now is another time where we can just wait. We can hang out. One thing that I will bring up at this point is that this is kind of where you'll start to get nervous about Yamcha not having offered his special class yet. Because we have the Cell Saga, and then we have most of the Boo Saga. But before we reach, like, the Kid Boo part, we need the 15 TP medals. And so if we don't have the Yamcha special class, or if we do have it, but he doesn't give us the full 10 that we need from him, we will actually have to resort to backup strats, which are just, the backup strats are just doing other extra missions, you know? And, like, every extra mission is, like, another 50 seconds or something added to the time. So it's not ideal. Okay, so this is one where it's usually pretty easy, but there is a dialogue skip here. And so I want to beat them as quickly as I can, but if they're going to keep dodging my attacks, we'll see if I get it. If they do like, boo, wah, then I missed it. So fingers crossed. Okay, no, we got it. We got the dialogue skip here, that's good. Because that wastes like 30 seconds, I think, if you don't get it. But having Android 16 immediately start talking, that means that we're in the clear. So we've gotten 3 of the 4 dialogue skips available in this game, and we do have the hardest one left. I will bring it up when it's time, but it won't be for quite some time now, so you just gotta chill. And this part is quite long, and so, you know, it's even longer if you don't get that, the dialogue skip. So, like, one more Cell Jr. spawned, and he's invincible, like, up to this point, once you get him down to a sliver. So I'm just waiting on him to get my key back up. And then what we're going to want to do is, if I hold down one trigger, my right trigger, you can see I have my super skills here. If I hold down both left and right, these are my ultimates. I want to, like, step forward and use Super Key Explosion in this next bit, and hopefully catch all 3 Cell Juniors in the Super Key Explosion. It almost never happens, but it has happened. And when it does work out, it's great. The issue with it is that that can also catch Perfect Cell in the explosion, and then he aggroes you, and you don't need to beat him at all in this section. Yes! Okay, we got all 3 of them! Oh, okay, so, look, whatever time we get at the end of this run, you don't get to see that often. That is very uncommon to be able to, like, defeat all 3 of them in that attack, so that felt super good. Okay, very cool. So now we just need to beat 8 of these metal coolers. And they're very easy. Oh, not so, not so, please not so. I don't want him to aggro me. Because fighting him does nothing here. I want everyone to know that that was a genuine reaction I had with that, beating those 3 Cell Juniors that way. It's not even like an incredible time save, it's just, that's, you know, the goal, the hope, is to do that, and it, like, never happens. So it was very cool. Okay, need the last metal cooler to spawn, there we go. Now, I could have beaten them, too, by using some of my super skills, like Consecutive Energy Blast, where I just pelt Ki Blast. But I want to save key so I can use Super Key Explosion again here, because we have more metal coolers to fight. Once again, I want to step forward to capture as many as I can. So 5 is actually a really good number as well. I usually hope for 3. Like I've definitely gotten 5 before, and I actually don't know if I've gotten more than 5, but that was really good. Same kind of thing, it's like using key here could obviously be really handy to get more of them, but after we beat these 10 metal coolers, one more at this point, we're basically going to have a repeat of this fight, where I'm going to want to step forward, use Final Key Explosion, get as many as I can. The only difference is we have to beat 12 of them, and we have Trunks fighting alongside us now. Which can make it a little bit more difficult, because they have more people that they can target, so they might not be like swirling around me as much. But we did get 4 involved, so that was good. Yeah, also, Super Key Explosion went great this run. We're probably not going to be using it at all, like at any other point in the run now. That's probably the end of Super Key Explosion, but it was really good. And you can see, though, how immediately annoying they're being now. Constantly switching between fighting me and going after Trunks, where they're just, you know, dodging all of my attacks and making me waste my ki, making me waste my stamina. But Trunks actually beat a metal cooler. He doesn't always get to do that. So you know what? Props to you, Trunks. Glad to see that you're really trying this time. So ideally, I would want to actually like finish some of these off that I'm attacking, but I was really hoping that some of those stray consecutive ki blasts might have hit them, or that Trunks might have gotten an attack off, but there's our 12. Very good, very good. So we have just one more fight now in the Cell Saga. I mean, we will fight Cell again, but like this is what I'm calling the Cell Saga. It's, you know, a little Super Saiyan 2 Gohan, and we're all good. So I'm going to start off doing as much damage as I can, but I want to save my Limit Burst until I have my transformation. And for that, I need 3 bars of ki, which are the orange bars on the left if you didn't catch on to that yet. So there, I've equipped that, I've used my Limit Burst. So now what I want to do, of course, is hopefully get some chained attacks in. But, of course, Gohan interrupted. Okay, but since Gohan is, like, tapping him, he was keeping him steady, keeping him vulnerable, so Gohan actually made up for it there. Let me chain my Pro Flash back and forth, and you could see just how powerful that was. Very nice when it works out that way. So obviously not the best fight, but the ending was a really good example of how the NPC allies can be beneficial, even if they're not most of the time. So I'm waiting for a yellow message to pop up on the screen saying that Yamcha has a special course. And we don't have it yet. So for now, we just have to keep going. We have another couple chances before we're going to have to rely on backup strats for the TP medals. Because it's basically like every time that you reload back into the hub or the time nest, where there's not like another event scripted to happen, whether that's a cutscene or something else, then the Yamcha event has a chance to trigger. You just need to have spoken to him at least once. So it's like I fought him, but I fought him because I wanted a TP medal and he's a quick one. You don't need to fight him for that chance to happen for his special training mission thingy. He throws turtle stones, you have to go collect them. But, you know, oh gosh, since we talked to him, we might as well fight him. Man, he's also being cheeky with his evasives. Like, again, he's very evasive happy. And they're ultimate happy, wow. If you're unfamiliar with this game, when an enemy is using an ultimate attack, you basically want to do one of two things if you can. If you can get a charged heavy attack that looks like this for me, on them, like you can see his stamina will break. Yeah, so it's red now, it's recharging. And of course it canceled the ultimate they were using. Another thing that you can do is this. So I dash toward him, I press A again, I hit him from behind. That will also cancel an ultimate and break their stamina. If you can't do either of those, you want to either run away or guard. Okay, so there we go, mirror's down. And we have been leveling, of course, as we've gained experience over the course of this run. But most of our levels were from, you know, leveling up with Tosok, paying him money so that he would just bestow us with his powers. Every time you level, you do get attribute points, which, you know, I put into my basic attack and my super strike skills, which, you know, Meteor Crash falls under, Pearl Flash falls under, right? And so I have been getting more, but I haven't been getting enough for me personally to justify going into the menu and like putting those points in at this point in time. Once I reach a certain point of the story, both because I think by that point I'll have accumulated like a good enough amount of attribute points, and because that fight can be really difficult, I will actually take the time to use, you know, just like level myself up again, more or less. But not just yet. This Android 16 is actually really easy. Don't be fooled by all of his jumping around and using evasives. He's normally very easy. Okay, so we're going to transform and limit burst. Connect with him, do a full Y combo. We smack. Ah, Sal, no! We smack him. We smack him. But Sal, no! Stop it. All right, fine. Well, you know what? It's a good show of what they are capable of, because you don't always get RNG to cooperate with you, now do you? Once again. There we go. Now we're done with Cell. Now he's actually finished for the run. Don't have to worry about it anymore. So now we're actually going to go into the expert mission tutorials. Expert missions are another thing that are not part of the main story, and they're not parallel quests. They're a little bit different. They're sort of like raids, you know, that you would have in like MMOs. Or at least they often behave that way, you know. And so this is just going to show us two different kinds of expert missions that the game provides. The first one is going to be a Great Ape, kind of like what we fought with Nappa and Vegeta toward the beginning of this game, but it behaves a little bit differently. And then we're going to have another fight against Turles. So I guess I lied, there is technically one more bit of Turles here. We smack him. You said smack. You know what? You're not wrong. Yes, so Supreme Kai of Time is like, hey, do this tutorial. So we have no choice. We cannot continue the main story until we complete these two expert mission tutorials. And we can play as like any of the characters there for this, but, you know, Patroller, the name of our default Majin female, is awesome. So I'm just going to keep playing as her. Now, when we fought the two Great Apes before, Nappa and Vegeta, we wanted to have the Bomb Ki Blast, which is the default for Majin, as we talked about. But I have a Super Soul now, which gives me a different kind of Ki Blast. But thankfully, we don't actually have to defeat the Great Ape the way that we did Great Ape, Nappa, and Vegeta. It's going to showcase like another thing that Great Apes specific to the expert missions can do, and what to do in that instance. So now he took us into a Dark Crystal. We have to fight a dark version of ourselves, and we did it. So, you know, dark sucks, light wins. Just keep that in mind, I suppose. I mean, I trust that all of you already knew that here, but yeah. So here, what it wants you to do is be like, you know the thing that just happened to you? You were brainwashed, sent into that dark dimension? Stop them from doing the same thing by hitting them. But if we don't hit them, it just jumps ahead to the next part of the tutorial where we have to actually defeat them. So, if I can please aim at her. Okay. Yeah, now we're fighting. Connected that. This fight, surprisingly enough, can actually be really difficult. Just fighting that other time patroller. they get kind of cracked sometimes. So thankfully, that one worked out pretty well. The worst part, honestly, was just she ended up being behind the Great Ape, and so I couldn't target her as well as I would have liked. Okay, but this, we just want to focus on that, hit it with a Ki Blast, jump up to it, smack it some. Smack it some. There we go. And we send it back. Ideally, and admittedly, what I would have done is have 2 bars of Ki and just use consecutive energy blast twice. But I used a little bit too much Ki fighting that other time patroller, because if you let them like get the upper hand, it can take a lot of time. So I just didn't want that to happen. But throwing the giant meteor can be a lot faster. So now we've done the first one. She has that scroll over her head, which usually means it's another like required objective. But we just ignore talking to her just now because she doesn't tell us anything more useful. We run into the second portal, which a lot of people playing this casually, they just miss that the second portal even exists. And are wondering why they can't, you know, make more progress in the story. That's why. We need to do this one as well. So here we have Turles once again. And kind of like how we got brainwashed sent into a dark dimension, this time we're just going to be flung into a different dimension. There's going to be a dark crystal. We'll see that soon. But here what we have to do is just fight whatever enemy is set up for us. It's not a dark version of ourselves this time. In this case, it's going to be a Cyberman. In other expert missions, you know, it could be whomever. And the map that it sends us to in this tutorial is actually random. I mean, like, it has its limitations, obviously. Like a set pool, but it picks randomly from that pool, which is kind of interesting. This is actually my favorite one for it to take us to. Because other ones, the portal can get a little bit lost. So it's nice. So here we just have to charge straight away to this crystal and hope that Turles doesn't smack us. X, Y, 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 Y. Cool. X is light attack. I'm playing with an Xbox controller. Y is heavy attack. So light attack to connect and then finish it off with a heavy. And now that we've beaten those two, we just want to attack. And down he goes. So it's not too long. And now we're done with the expert mission tutorials. That was it. They don't contribute to your TP medal total. Even though like the parallel quest tutorial does, and expert missions typically do give you TP medals, usually, or at least often, more than one, we get nothing from that. So fly back, talk to her at this point. She says, great job, thank you. And now we get to leave again. So we'll just head back up here and back into the time nest to continue with more story. And now's the time where we are really praying that Yamcha will show up and offer his special class, because we have like one more opportunity at this point before we have to go to backup strats. So, if y'all can prage for me, that'd be great. It won't be a huge deal, obviously. I mean, it will be a huge deal in terms of time wasted, time lost. But, like, whatever. If we have to do backup, whatever. It just means more Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2 time. But yeah, Broly's here. And he's not happy with you. I mean, I don't think really he's happy with anyone in life, in general. But he's really not happy with you. Because you're kind of like keeping him from fighting Goku and stuff, and for whatever reason, he really hates that guy. But at this point, he's invincible. So we kind of just chill. Like, I'm going to keep punching him just to get my ki up all the way, but there we go. Like, if we wanted, we could go and, like, fight Vegeta, but that doesn't matter. So I'm just going to knock him away a little bit just so he doesn't keep attacking me. Because my health does matter. I don't anticipate dying by any means against him, but it will carry over. So if we can take him out as quickly as possible, that's great. Not do as much damage to Boo as we can, but he's going to have a little power-up cutscene. So if we used our limit burst already, this would eat up its time. So I did specifically wait Now I transform, use Limit Burst to knock him away, and of course just to activate it. Now we just need him down a little bit, and there we go. Okay. Time for you to go home, bye-bye, is the dialogue trigger for this fight. So I can untarget, I can take a quick nap, you can see my ki goes up, my health goes up, and we're good. Punch then kick, then punch then kick. Basically. Welcome to Dragon Ball Z. Yeah, so just chilling, waiting for the scene to move us along to the next mission. And here we go. That was a good wait, everyone. Pats on the back. But of course, we do still have more of the Boo Saga left. But hey, fingers crossed that we'll get Yamcha. Because this is what I would consider the last chance. Didn't happen. Okay. We kind of have one more chance. We kind of have one more chance. The next time that we're kicked out to the Time Nest is when we need the 15 TP medals, and we would have to talk to Elder Kai anyway. But like if we don't get the Yamcha pop-up at that point, we will have to do all the backup stuff, which just means again going and doing completely extra unnecessary missions. For now though, back to these. We gotta fight Super Boo a few times. Once we get him down to a certain point, you know, it'll do the same thing, trigger dialogue, right? Yada yada. You know how it goes by now. And so the issue is, we're fighting alongside Piccolo. And he can be a bit of a hog. He is far from the worst ally. But there we go. It can just be tedious sometimes when they knock them away from you. And now we get to see Adult Gohan. Not for too terribly long, but he's here. So, scene transition. Oh, so he actually hit me, knocked me out of my transformation as I was doing, well, just as I was triggering it. So that was unfortunate. Broke my stamina and everything. Wasted the time I had on my Limit Burst. And you can see, too, that enemies at this point, their AI has gotten good enough that they'll start perfect blocking things. Like that, right there. Just a little hit. Okay, there we go. So we got hit by his ultimate, but thankfully at this point we don't need to touch Super Boo. So I'm just going to heal. It's unnecessary because it's going to move on. But now we have one more fight. We're gonna go and help Vegeta out with Janemba. So, there we go. I'll admit, I was wrong. I didn't know we had to do anything more to him. Turns out you had to get him down to that point of health. Or it lagged severely, but I'm going to say that I'll admit, usually I do just continue to wail on him because it's something to do. Okay, so we use this to knock him away. Connect with him. Just a little bit more. There we go. Now Vegeta's here. And then basically the same thing. No, just hit him one. Okay, thank you. It's like one more time. So Janemba is now down. You were hoping for a Xenoverse 3 that adds more story up the super storyline instead of more DLC content. Yeah, everyone was, right? And it's still possible for Xenoverse 3 to come out. There are obviously still rumors circulating, but I'm hoping. Yamcha? No Yamcha. That would have been clutch. Okay, so at this point, talking to Elder Kai, he just asks if we know about TP medals, and he tasks us with bringing him 15 of them. since we only have 5 at this point, we do have to go and do other fights. So I'm going to go around to some of these instructors and just do usually just their initial training. Depending on the instructor, I might, you know, like, do a second one as well, depending on how quick it is. But yeah. So every time we do one of these fights, we're going to get a TP medal, and we're going to trigger another chance for Yamcha to host his special training. And I'm hoping that after this one, we'll get it. And if not, then after the next one, we'll get it, etc. But if not, we will just have to do 10 extra instructor missions. So I'll just do this one while I'm here. Oh no! But instead of hitting the second mission, I did the first again, and it only gives you a TP medal the first time you beat a new one. So whoops, that was a time loss. Oh, Fighter Z is free this weekend on Switch. I assume just for the weekend, but that's cool. That's one of those games that I've owned and just never played still. The bright side about that little slip up, like the silver lining to it, is that even just popping into that mission and popping back out does trigger, like have a chance to trigger Yamcha. It didn't in that case, but it has a chance. So we just have to wait for him to be satisfied. A lot of dialogue in these. Some of the instructors do talk forever, and some don't. Oh. Though in this case, it was just because I was pressing the wrong button. We need to finish them off with Saturday Crash. So that was another one that's on me. Here's the thing. The instructor missions behave a little bit differently one to another. In the very first one, you just beat them in any way that you can, right? But from that one on, you have to finish them off with their super attack. Which I was using his super attack. But you need to do the one that they were teaching you that particular, like, instructor event. And to make matters a little bit more complicated, they change up your skill set. And so, like, what was on Y one fight is suddenly on X the next. And so that was a failing on my part of not keeping track of which one it was on. This one being the first one from Piccolo, we just need to get him down to the health threshold. We don't actually have to use his special to do it. So all good. So at this point, we have 8 TP medals. We need a total of 15. This is another opportunity for Yamcha to show up, but he didn't. It is Big Green, yeah. Alright, I'm going to do something that I'm frankly not 100% sure on yet. I'm going to do Yamcha's second lesson, and I'm going to see if that will trigger, or has a chance to trigger. Because I can see it not having the chance, because it would be weird if you fought him and then suddenly he was in a different location, you know, to do his special training course. But it's one of those things that's really difficult to test because whether or not he hosts a special training course, you know, is just RNG. And I've done things that could trigger it for like an hour without it happening. And so it's difficult to say whether something's impossible or only improbable, Mario. But we didn't get it this time either way. So we are up to our 9. Now I'm actually going to go over and we're going to fight over here. Over here we have the lovely Nappa. Cool. Put him in the crater. Yeah, right? This is what you get for not throwing a turtle stone for me. Yeah, if anyone is interested in running Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2 in general, New game has to deal with the transformations, like the race-specific transformations, and getting the 15 TP medals. And, you know, we're on the 15 TP medals requirement part. And it is obviously pretty heavily RNG focused. Most of the time, Yamcha shows up, like, when I need him, you know, within that first half of the game, right? Yamcha's offering a special course. But what I was going to say was just, so obviously we're going to drop everything we're doing and go do that right now. If the thing that's holding you back is like that kind of heavy RNG, you don't like having to rely on Yamcha for the turtle stones, that's fine. I would suggest New Game Plus, where you already have all of the TP medals that you would need. But see here, we went to him on this resort island, we told him to throw a stone, so he does. And now we just have to find it. Is it this? I found it. Okay. So it's random where he throws the stone. I mean, he throws multiple. So thankfully, you're not just looking for one. It's not that bad RNG. But if he doesn't throw it on that resort island, you're basically guaranteed to get 8 TP medals or fewer, and not the 10 that you typically need. In this case, because I'd done bonus fights, I didn't need all 10 from him, but we're good. We showed rather Elder Kai that we had the 15 TP medals. Now we're continuing with the story. We actually get to finish the, you know, Majin Buu saga by fighting Kid Buu here. Shoutouts to Team 4-Star because of having Nappa included in the game. Oh, I see. I thought you meant that they were the reason he was included. I was like, what? Pretty sure he's an important part of Dragon Ball lore. Oh, he's throwing him. It's okay, I'm patient. So now it's our turn to transform. So now it's Kid Buu versus Kid Buu. Which Kid Buu is superior? Probably him, frankly, but we're gonna pretend that we've got this. I just need to hit him like one more time with that. Okay, I was wrong. A little bit. Kick him. Kick him. Vegeta, help! Vegeta! There we go. Okay. Once Hercule starts talking, we know that we're good. Thank you for the good luck, Sam. I mean, we're done with the biggest bits of RNG, I would say. I mean, there's always the RNG of just enemies not cooperating with you, or your NPC allies not cooperating with you. But the biggest thing in this category is the 15 TP medals. Whether or not Yamcha would show up, and whether or not he would throw the stone in an appropriate location. We did have to do 4 extra fights, which frankly would be like, you know, another 4 minutes-ish. But yeah, the voice used for the Team 4-Star version is one of the voice options in the game. Oh, that's what you mean. Okay, I did know that bit of trivia. I couldn't tell you which voice option it is, but I had heard that before. My friend being a Team 4-Star fan, yeah. And obviously a Xenoverse 2 fan. Okay, anyway. So, I don't like fighting in this space as much. Because a big part of the Majin Female Infinite combo is when you smack them down, they kind of bounce off the ground a bit, you hit them with a Ki Blast, and then you keep the combo going from there. But, haha, one sec. Ah! Okay, we're fine. But, in space, the floor is like way down, because usually in a lot of these missions you fight pretty close to the floor, right? But you kind of start in the middle of the box, I suppose, in the space ones, and that has just a lot of verticality to it. So usually to keep the combo going there, I have to vanish after them, which is like when you see me teleport, like that. And every time you vanish when you're on the offensive, it takes 1 bar of stamina, which is the blue bar, you know, below my health, below my ki. And if you're being attacked, so if you're on the defense, it takes 2 full bars of stamina. So it can be really bad. So I want to, if I can, hit him away, transform, use my Limit Burst. I was very tempted to say that, actually, yeah. In space, no one can hear you scream. But I was afraid that my ADHD brain would forget what I was saying, as it so often does. So I decided to not. And of course, while we have Limit Burst, I do want to get in as many Pearl Flash as I can, because that's when it's at its most powerful, you know. Okay, we broke his stamina, so we should be able to get in a good few hits here. One more. There we go. Okay, so Beerus is down. He can be a bit tricky sometimes with his own evasives, you know, which like often act as counters. His ultimate can be nasty. He's not as bad as Whis, which unfortunately we will have to fight later on. Or, you know, whom unfortunately we'll have to fight later on. But we'll just have to cross our fingers that that fight goes well. When we get there, of course. We have time. So nothing really more that I want to do at this point other than just continue with the story. We should really have no interruptions. It should just be story mission after story mission until we beat the game at this point. Ah yes, the Battle of Gods, that's right. And I am one of them. Patroller. Time Patroller. But yeah, now we get the fun of fighting Golden Frieza. Not immediately, but that's how I refer to this arc at the very least. First, of course, though, we have to fight a number of his minions. We have to defeat 15 of them. And they actually can be a big pain to fight. They have their counters down pretty well. They can perfect block. And because there's so many of them on the map, they can just kind of bully you back and forth. Breaking me out of my transformation like that. Okay. So ideally what I'll do is I'll just swoop over to them. This is my heavy attack. I do this. Kind of like Sonic Spin Dash after them. So I want to hit them, punch once, use my Pearl Flash, and in this transformed state, that's enough to finish them off. So it's just a matter of whether or not they'll actually let me. Because as you saw, they can be pretty nasty. And I do, of course, have to juggle my ki as well. I couldn't do this kind of thing endlessly. But every time that you deal damage, you do get a little bit of your ki bar back. And so I kind of just have to rely on that, like when I hit them with the Sonic Spin Dash, and then when I connect with that first punch. Just gonna finish this one off. Oh, maybe I shouldn't have done that. With just punches, but then his friend showed up. Okay, so that one's down. I just need one more. No, Ramon! There we go. And now we have this Frieza to fight. Another thing that's mean, this was another difficulty spike for me when I was first playing this game. If you die at any point during that, like, beat the 15 Frieza minions, you have to redo, like, you have to fight all 15 of them again, you know? And similarly, if you die against Frieza here, you have to do that entire minion fight again. It's just nasty. It can be very, very detrimental to your time in this speedrun. It's cool that Tracksuit Gohan here is playable. We don't believe they gave him a transformation skill. That is odd. As far as, I know I mentioned briefly I don't have, like, nostalgia exactly for Dragon Ball, and that's true, just because I didn't grow up with it myself. I first watched, like, any Dragon Ball, really, in 2000... Actually, around the time I started speedrunning this, 2018. Where I watched the original Dragon Ball, not Dragon Ball Z, but, like, Dragon Ball. I binged that over a summer. It was a very unproductive summer. And then I've just been watching, you know, Dragon Ball Z a bit at a time since then. I am up to the beginning of the Majin Buu saga. So all of my knowledge of, like, the Majin Buu saga or any of Dragon Ball Super really comes from this game or just my interaction with, you know, the Dragon Ball community as a whole, whatever that looks like. But yeah, it's really cool to hear people's, like, personal stories of, you know, they're growing up with Dragon Ball, because I know it was such a huge influence for so many people. Okay. So now we have the key from that last fight with Frieza. So we just want to use that to transform. And then try to get in, you know, as much as we can. Oh, he recovered actually very quickly from his evasive there. But this is another one of those fights where it's like, they can be really useful, your AI allies. But they can also just completely knock them away from you. So we are done with Cooler and Frieza here. Or so you might think. Nay, we have almost exactly the same fight to do after we skip a bunch of cutscenes here. I don't really know why. Maybe it has to do with... Is that how Super went? They beat them, and then they had to beat them again? I don't know. But... yeah, it's basically the same thing. The only real difference with this upcoming fight... Presumably, Cooler and Frieza are a little bit more powerful than they were last time. But the bigger difference to me is that we don't have that very first bit where we just fight Frieza on his own, which means that we don't have the time to build up our ki. We're starting with full health but 0 ki, and so we can't use our transformation right away. So we just have to fight them normally until we get our at least 3 bars of ki, you know? And now I can transform. I'm gonna use my limit burst. And Golden Frieza, I'm going to leave be for now because he was very weak. And I think it would be better for me to use... I mean, I was really hoping that in that time they would finish him off. But for me to use my powered up Pearl Flash against Metal Cooler. But there he goes. So it was actually quite convenient there that the Ki Blast was keeping him in place. So we're good. Oh, according to Goku, Frieza looks like the thing Chi-Chi keeps in her drawer. Oh no. Talking about bloomers on this stream? Inappropriate. Okay, but there's that. So, cool. They're down. Now we have a scary fight. I mean, not that those fights can't be scary in their own right, but this is an actually scary fight where I can definitely die. Usually fights are just scary because, you know, they might take longer, but this one, I could absolutely die. Whis is powerful. Just like good evasives, good blocks and dodges. And his ultimate, it like begins really quickly and is very powerful and can keep you stun locked. It's just a risky fight. So I've used most of the attribute points I built up to this point to just increase my basic attacks and my strike supers. That Pearl Flash. Here we go. We dodged his ultimate, though, which thank goodness, because incredibly powerful, like I said. And there's Whis down. Okay, so that fight actually went really rather well. Certainly could have been faster, but it went really well. Okay. And now that Whis is down, we're basically to endgame, which is great. Just have to do a few more things. This is where we start really cracking down on the 2 main villains of this game, Toa and Mira. Because of course, they're sending all of the, like, they're changing history, they've been sending these superpowered goons after us, right? And they've even seemed to brainwash some people. And that's basically what we've dealt with it a little bit. We fought Bardock earlier. He was a masked Saiyan at the time. Here we go again. Bardock once more. If you could stop that, though. Trunks, don't. Okay. So there's that. Ideally, we'll just take them out as quickly as possible here. Of course, people might not cooperate, or we end up with things like that where we just about finish them off, have to spend a little bit more time. This is another fight where I debate whether I want to transform or not. But, you know, base Majin female is still great. If Trunks could stop knocking him away, that would be great. I know I knocked him away that time, but in general. Then we should be able to finish him with this. No, he dodged it all. Okay. Trunks actually did at least get that final hit in. That's good. There was a hiccup. Hope it wasn't from me. Glad it's all fixed up, though. Well, I don't know how long the hiccup lasted, but Whis went well, in case anyone was curious, and I was concerned about that fight, but it went well. And now we're in the final stretch. We're confronting Mira and Toa, who are behind it this whole time, you know, messing with time and history and all of that. And now, you might remember very briefly at the beginning of this, you know, new game that we made, right, for the run. I had to pick a hero for Kanton City. And or Toki Toki City, technically. And I picked default Earthling looking dude. Well, he's being mind controlled by a mask, and so we have to beat him out of it. And this can be another scary fight, and so far it has been. He has an ultimate that's really hard to avoid. Once again, he's just good at vanishing, general dodging, guarding. So there was that ultimate I was talking about that's hard to avoid. But we've almost got him down. And there we go. Oh, setting up issues. No worries, no worries. Final battle time! Basically, just about, yeah. By beating up the old hero, we have freed him from Toa's mind control. And so now we get to confront Toa herself. And she can be cheeky. Her fight is, like, not difficult at all. But her evasives kind of just let her disappear from the map. She has an ultimate that can heal herself. I mean, ideally, I would want her to use her ultimate because I'd break her out of it and then use her, you know, broken stamina to my advantage. But, yeah, she can just chain combos together just to keep you busy. She's a time waster is what I'm basically trying to say. So we're going to hope that she doesn't waste that much time.
What? What are you doing? How did you follow me this far? Erasing the Dragon Balls from history. That should have changed the outcome of our...
But see, that's her evasive where she just disappears from the map for a little bit. Whis has the same kind of thing that you might have seen, might not have. I'm not sure when the hiccup was. But we've got her just about down. We just have to do a little bit more. But Trunks is not really helping, just keeps blasting her up into the air. Okay, broke her stamina, so now she's down. There we go. Okay. The crazy part is that if you import a hero into the file of Xenoverse 2, they will use the moves they had equipped in Xenoverse 1. That's right. If you have a save file of Xenoverse 1, like on the same console, or at least on Steam. That's all I really know about. You can, yeah, transfer that hero over. And they give you some other goodies too, like TP medals, you know, stuff like that. Which is why it's not allowed in this run, because TP medals are so, like, important for this category. But here we have the actual final fight, and it's split up into 3 different sections. This first part is arguably the most important, because it has a dialogue skip. And because he used his ultimate right away, we're actually looking great on that. Okay, we got the dialogue skip. So that's good. I want to say that saves about a minute on its own. You need to get him down to this point where he's invincible before Toa finishes this line. And we did. Because we broke his stamina immediately, and then we were just able to beat up on him. Because normally, you know, he'd be jumping all around, he'd be, you know, comboing us, that kind of thing. So the fight started off really, really well. And now we're just going to hope that phases 2 and 3 go just as well. And this, I want to point out too, is the only fight in the game where when the enemy is invincible and you just have to wait for the dialogue to pass, that you are also invincible. As you can see, he's beating me up and nothing is happening. I am perfectly fine. It's just the only time that it happens. And I don't know why.
How large this explosion might be. If it's able to tear through dimensions and break through this
But we just get to wait.
we're punished. You there.
Toa is realizing that it was a terrible idea. You know, I mean, like, Mira went off kind of on his own and got stronger. But still, Toa's fault, right? And so she's agreeing here to fight him alongside of us. And once again, he uses that right away, which is great, because I could just break his stamina. And as long as Toa doesn't knock him away, let's do this, and then Meteor Crash. There we go. That was a great first and second phase, honestly. And now this third phase, well, Mira got tired of it, and he just straight up absorbed Toa. So now we have to deal with that. But Goku's here to fight with us, so yeah, hopefully that'll end well. Hopefully we won't see it. I'm afraid to talk about it because it might jinx it, but okay, he actually did use an ultimate, but it was the best ultimate that he could have used. He has, I think, 3 ultimates. Oh, time. Sorry. I did not expect it to go that well. I'm so sorry. But that's time. I think he has 3 ultimates that he can use. 2 of them he's invincible during, and he only takes 1 bar of ki to use his ultimates, whereas normally it takes 3 bars of ki, and he has like 8 bars total. So he can do it back to back to back to back, and it's ridiculous because they're powerful ultimates, and again, he's invincible during them, so you just have to you just have to wait. But there we go. Like, honestly, I think that might have been the best 3 phases that I've had. I mean, at least all together as one package. So I'm very pleased. Now, like, here's the thing. If not for Yamcha not showing up on time, I think that this would have been, like, an amazing run. I don't know, because I don't see the timer on my end. And I was not timing myself. But, yeah. And who knows? Maybe it wasn't that great. But there were a lot of things that felt really good. Like, that final boss felt really good. The metal coolers, the multiple of them felt really good. Getting all 3 Cell Juniors and the Super Key Explosion felt really good. So I was very pleased overall with this run. I hope that you all enjoyed your time here. You know, I'd recommend this game to people who want to try it out for a speed run. You know, it's my like pet project kind of thing as far as speedruns are concerned. I've routed each of the races for, you know, New Game specifically. If you want to do New Game Plus, whether no inheritance or inheritance, which means either like, you know, new character or not new character on an existing save file, that kind of thing. A 143, yeah. For what we had to do, like all those backup things, I think a 143 is good. But yeah, point is, like, I'd be happy to answer questions if anyone was interested in running this or that kind of thing. But I'm good here. I hope that y'all have had a great time, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of License-a-thon. They're being silly, but I'm just gonna skip it. We're getting to the credits now, so I'm going to be leaving. Thank you all again so much for watching. I hope that you had a good time, and I hope that you continue to have a good time. Be good people. Love each other and love yourselves, all that. So, yeah. All right. Bye. Thank you again.